What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home here at fakepigskin.com. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. Joining me, thankfully to his power returning, is Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
What's up, Kyle? And yes, I am very thankful to have power, and hopefully it continues this way throughout the weekend because the original prognosis was no power until sometime on Sunday, which
Yeah.
would have been absolutely terrible, horrific. Wouldn't even begin to explain that.
Yep. No, that would mean no live stream, no football for you, no fun.
Not a happy
So
Brian.
if we're not here Sunday morning, that is why. Hopefully we can be. We've been having a lot of fun on Sunday mornings. We're trying to hop on a little bit later, like 11:45 Eastern. Just feels like more people can get in, hop in, ask questions, all that stuff. So the earlier you guys get in, the more questions you ask, the longer we're going to stay on. So please hop in, please join us. We've been having a lot of fun and hopefully helping people set winning lineups. We're up over 160 subscribers, so we appreciate everybody hopping on, everybody joining, everybody keeping the conversation rolling. But today we are going to talk the Week 13 betting preview. Before we do that, let's jump into our Week 12 recap. A wild ride. It's basically been a full 7 days from when the week started to the week ended. The Thursday games didn't go well for me. Obviously the Steelers game got moved. We ended up holding that line at 4.5. A lot of people, if you bet it early, got that number and got to cash that number. I bet the other side, took the Ravens at plus 10.5 in real life and cashed that as well. So that was a gross game, a lot of ups and downs. Having the Eagles plus 6 was really nice instead of the 5, which we bet on the show. Thank you for the backdoor cover, Carson Wentz. Justin Herbert, what was going on in the end of the fourth quarter? I have no idea. But that should have been a Chargers cover. That should have been another win. That didn't happen.
I feel like he thought he was still at Oregon with that play call.
Between Anthony Lynn and Mario Cristobal, like the play calling is just horrendous. Shouts to the Beavers for getting it done on the field. That was really nice by Oregon State. It's been a wild ride. Brian, you had some ups, you had some downs. Patriots money line bang, Steelers. Let's see, you had some L's. You had the Bengals team total under. You had Clemson, that was nice. So a mixed bag for us. It's definitely not rebounded like we had kind of hoped after a really strong start to the season, but it's time to kick it into gear. It's time to hit all those winners and finish the season strong, help pay for some of those holiday presents.
Yeah.
And get ready for 2021, which will, fingers crossed, hopefully be better. Let's hit our Week 13 betting preview. And we'll start like we always do. We got 3 games. We'll get into the best. We'll get into the best of the rest. We'll hit the college football games. We'll give you our full card, and we'll give you our best bet, and then we'll get out of here. Let's start here with New Orleans heading to Atlanta. New Orleans coming off of a drubbing of the Kendall Hinton-led Denver Broncos, something we all kind of, basically expected. The thing we didn't expect was Oakland or Vegas to go to Atlanta and play as terribly as they did. I always get worried when everybody's on one side, and this was a spot where that came to fruition. Now the Falcons are home. They welcome New Orleans. The line is a lot shorter than anyone had anticipated. The line is 3.5, depending on where you look at it. A lot of the public is on the Falcons, or no, rather on the Saints, but more money's coming in on the Falcons. It's a very weird number. Brian, where are you at with this game?
So I might be duped like the public, but the line for me currently sitting at 3 with plus juice for the Saints seems like the play here, being that New Orleans defense is outer worldly right now. And I know they faced a team that didn't have a quarterback last week, but this is now 3 weeks in a row where New Orleans defense has basically won them the games.
Mhm.
Going back to even when they played Atlanta, their defense is what, allowed them to separate late in that game. Now Atlanta is going to be going into another matchup. Julio Jones missed practice again today, so it's not looking likely like he's going to play.
Yeah.
And their defense is not going to do to New Orleans what they just did to the Raiders this past Sunday. So they're not going to create 3-4 turnovers against this New Orleans team.
Yeah. I mean, the line's down to 2.5 in most places. I'm not really sure why Action Network is showing me a 3.5. That's the opening number, but whatever, Action Network, it's fine. Most lines are down to 2.5. You can get a -3. I like the Saints at 2.5. I think this is a spot where they absolutely crush. I know from a fantasy perspective, like Alvin Kamara hasn't been great, but I think what they do on offense is fine enough. And I think, as you mentioned, their defense is one that gets stronger. We'll see if Julio plays. We'll see if Gurley plays. We'll see if they get any of their pieces back. But yeah,
I think it's also interesting of note too that this is going to be the third start for Taysom Hill. So I know they didn't open up the playbook last week because just the matchup didn't dictate doing that. But he's now had 2 full weeks of practice taking the starter reps, and that's definitely something that people I think are discounting. Is we haven't really seen them unleash a full-fledged passing attack with Hill, so we really don't know what they're capable of.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously last week they did nothing and they still won by 30 points. So
yeah,
there was zero reason for them to do anything. And that's, I think their defense makes plays. I think their offense plays well, and may end up with egg on our face from this one, but New Orleans is the only side for me in this game. Let's talk about my boys coming off of back-to-back big wins against Baltimore and Indianapolis. Now they're home. Now they welcome the Cleveland Browns. This line is sitting at, I believe, 5.5 or 6, depending on where you look at it, in favor of Tennessee. Where's your head at in this one?
This game's really tough because as much as I dislike Baker Mayfield, the Browns have been one of the hottest teams in the NFL over the past few weeks, but they're traveling to Tennessee to face probably the hottest team in the NFL and the Tennessee Titans with how they've been playing. And I think like the interesting side right now is that they have this over under set at 53.5, 54. These are two teams that want to run the ball a ton. So it's interesting to see that line at such a high number. And when this could be a game where both running games are able to absolutely trounce the opposing defensive lines. I think you see very minimal possessions in this game. I don't see a lot of 3 and outs. I see a lot of like time-consuming possessions, and I'm kind of leaning the under in this spot, kind of avoiding the number where it currently sits, unless it were to get up to a 7.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I actually like the Browns in this spot, especially if it can get up over 6. Like if I can get a 6.5 or 7, I feel like, as you mentioned, these are two teams that want to run the ball. They want to control the clock. Obviously both teams have big playability, but I think they're both really happy to keep it kind of close. And the Browns have, as of late, like I don't trust them as big favorites. But if it's and I don't want to go against them as big underdogs. I think in the mid they're kind of a win close, lose close. They haven't really blown anybody out or gotten blown out. Like there was the game against the Raiders where they lost by 10. And then obviously at Pittsburgh, that was kind of an ugly game. But for the most part, it's been between 2 and 5 points for most of their wins or losses. So I like the Browns here. And to your point, they went over the total last week in Jacksonville, but prior to that, they had 3 straight games of hitting the under against the Raiders, the Texans, and the Eagles. And I mean, it looks like they've actually gone 2-1 in their totals to the over in totals above 50. So maybe that's something I would be interested to see. It's just so I guess it really comes down to like, because I expect Derrick Henry to have a big day. I expect Nick Chubb to run well. It comes down to whether like an AJ Brown touchdown happens, a special teams play, a defensive touchdown, like sets them up, or are these teams settling for field goals and not really, you know, pushing it super hard? So that's really where your head has to come down. And I'm looking at the total real quick just to get an idea of where the public is backing.
Yeah. Something of note too is that Cleveland will be getting back Myles Garrett on the outside to add just to their pass rush, which should help them in their passing defense, which has not been great, and it showed last week against Jacksonville.
Yeah, so 57% of the bets are on the over, but only 43% of the money. That means the smart people are siding with you, Brian. So I think that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see, right? Arizona, where the Arizona 49ers are welcoming the Buffalo Bills. A lot's going on here, obviously, because of the COVID situations. A lot of California teams are going to be relocating for the next couple weeks as population, as counts, you know, spike. Arizona is obviously a lot closer to San Francisco. It makes a lot more sense for the Niners. But this is also a spot where Buffalo was 2 weeks ago and almost came back, although the DeAndre Hopkins, you know, they might have nightmares walking back into the stadium after what Hopkins did to him. But if part of me is like, this means something, but part of me is like, they've been playing in empty or basically empty stadiums all year. And like, if this was a game, like when I was in college and there was the fires in San Diego, they moved the Monday night game for the Chargers and Dolphins to Arizona, and it was basically an empty stadium. So,
yeah,
but they'd been playing in a full stadium. They've been playing at home. It was very normal times. Where now they're playing in basically empty stadiums all year long. So I don't know that moving the game to Arizona is going to be a major difference. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think that this is really going to have any adverse effects towards either of these teams. It's actually a shorter travel distance for Buffalo, so I do think that actually helps them a bit because it's 1 hour less of travel time for them. And that you take that for what it is. It's basically a West Coast game. But, the fact that it is now going to be played in a dome-like atmosphere, you're not going to have any sort of weather, which will affect either of the passing offenses. Not that San Francisco is going to feature one of those very prevalently anyways. The one thing, like initially in this game, my original thought was I think this was a good spot to take San Francisco as a dog because that's where I thought it would open up as, because Buffalo is where they're at. They're 8-3, I believe, right now. And, San Francisco's been playing really well, but they're still without a top tier quarterback. I know, no offense to Nick Mullins, but he's not scaring any defenses into making them drop 8 in the coverage right now. But Buffalo, they've been struggling against the run recently, because they're strongest on the outside against receivers. And that's not something San Francisco really does. So I think this matchup does favor the 49ers. And this is a spot that I would have hoped that I could have gotten even money or plus money on the Niners money line here. But because it's in the favor of San Francisco, I'll probably be leaning more so on I kind of like the over in this game. I don't know. I don't know what the money is saying right now, but it's currently sitting at 47. I think San Francisco can create big chunk plays on the ground, and then Buffalo will have to throw the ball, a lot in this game, being that their running game has been like non-existent over the past 3 weeks.
So the total is currently opened at 48, down to 47 in some spots. 36% of the money is on the over, 7%, or 36% of the bet, 7% of the money. So 93% of the people are betting the under, or the money is on the under.
Okay, there we go. That's my contrarian play.
Even though it's 60-40. Yeah, the money says that it should fly under. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with Action Network. They're having all kinds of issues because when I look at like the counts of where the money's coming in and stuff, it shows me the opening line. Yet the Niners are like -1.
Maybe they had a power outage too.
Wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me. Yeah. Because I wouldn't have pound the Niners as well. At -1 against Buffalo.
It's tough because Buffalo's a good team.
Yeah. That's a game to avoid for me. I think if you really like the Niners and could have got it at plus money, I think that was the side to jump on. I think at this point I can't get there.
Yeah, that's kind of what my initially, like I was saying, I expected San Francisco to open as a dog, which I would have bet that. But being that they're a favorite, it's kind of one of those situations where because I'm not gaining money on my wager, I'm probably going to avoid that.
Yeah, and that'll be one to watch too as the week rolls along. Since it is the Monday night game, maybe as the week goes, more of the public weighs in, and the line goes back in favor of Buffalo, and then at that point we can buy back on the Niners. But at this point, yeah, for me it's Niners or nothing, and I don't know that I like it at like basically a pick 'em. Speaking of other games on the calendar, obviously we're going well into Tuesday again with your Dallas Cowboys and
Don't even get me
Baltimore.
started.
But so they're gonna have basically what, like 14 days off by the time they play, or 12 days off because they played on Thanksgiving and they haven't played since.
Yeah, that's a long duration in between games.
Really stewing in their own stink. Where are you at with the rest of the schedule? Is there anything else, like from a betting angle, that you're very excited to line up and take this week?
Well, I feel like I'm going to fall victim to the Bears once again, and I'll be laying the 3 with them at home, going up against Detroit, which is looking like Kenny Galladay is going to miss again, which that offense is just not the same without him. Going up against the Bears defense, who, yeah, they were just exposed by Aaron Rodgers, but he's Aaron Rodgers. And, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, all those guys. I just think this is a spot where Chicago smashes Detroit. It's one of those like 24-7 kind games, 24-10. So I like Chicago against the line. And then the other game that I'm really intrigued to watch again is I'm going back to the Meadowlands and looking at the Jets as 9-point dogs at home against the Raiders, their passing defense is terrible. So maybe I was a week early on the Jets in terms of thinking that this was going to be the game that they're going to cover and get close into the game. So I like the Jets with the points again. Fade me, please fade me, because that's probably not going to happen. But I don't know what it is.
You just lined up to bet the Jets and Mitchell Trubisky. We might need to send you in for a psych eval, my friend.
Hey man, it is 2020. Okay.
Yeah, things are about to get real reckless. I do have a friend holding a ticket that the Jets' first win would come against the Raiders, and it's a really nice payout if it hits. So I'm rooting for that. I think the Jets make some sense, but last week really did leave a stink and just a frustrating kind of result. I like the Colts a lot. I think the Colts minus 3.5 is the spot to be in. Obviously Deshaun Watson is great, but without Will Fuller, he's a significantly, like, that offense is significantly more limited. There's I guess David Johnson's looking good post concussion. I'm not lining up to back the Texans. That game I think gets ugly. I think the Colts, even though it is in Houston, control that game and win by 6 or more. So I'm going to be on the Colts minus the 3.5. What about the other Arizona team?
The actual Arizona team?
Yeah, the actual Arizona team. Is this a good spot to buy back in on Arizona, or do we take the Rams after a beating and expect them to play well? Because I mean, this line opened at basically pick 'em or -1 for Arizona, and now it's 2.5 or 3 in favor of the Rams. And I don't know that I think either of these teams are better than the other. So I'm curious at why it's such a dramatic move.
Yeah, I feel like this is a perfect example of what happens based off of the previous week's results. So Arizona was in line to win that game against New England if it wasn't for yet another missed kick by Zane Gonzalez, and then an absolutely terrible, just absolutely horrendous roughing the passer call on a play where Cam Newton was 2 yards in bounds and the guy went to hit him, because you never know if Cam's going to turn it upfield, from winning in New England. And this game taking a completely different turn for the way that we're looking at this Cardinals team right now. So I think taking them with the points is the spot here, because I think LA's defense is good enough to win them this game. But I like Arizona getting the points, and in all likelihood, I think the Cardinals win. But I'm not looking at them in terms of taking them money line. I like them with the points, just in case we get one of these situations where there's a missed extra point, or it's yet another close game that Arizona seems to find themselves in over the last few weeks.
Tell me why I'm crazy to back the Giants on the road against Seattle. They're getting double-digit points. They're 10-point underdogs. Yes, they didn't cover last week, but they were a favorite for the first time, and since they failed to cover last time. And in fact, they've only failed to cover two of the other 9 games as a underdog. So they're 7-2 as an underdog against the spread. And while I like Seattle, although it is Colt McCoy, so
I guess the reports are positive in terms of Daniel Jones's progress with his hamstring. There was some news today that said that it wasn't as bad as what they had anticipated.
Yeah.
Hold on.
But even then, like, is Daniel Jones and Colt McCoy really that big of a difference? Like, I know from a mobility and like the ability to run, as a runner, Daniel Jones is significantly more adept to do that. But as a passer, is it really that crazy? And Wayne Gallman falls in the end zone. I mean, we've seen this offense be fine enough. Their back is a huge underdog. I'm taking the Giants. Like, I don't like it, but double digits against Seattle's anemic defense. Russell Wilson will probably have a great game, but like, I could see it very much being like what happened with the Eagles, where it's just close enough and a late field goal, backdoor touchdown, something keeps us inside double digits.
So that's interesting you say that, because one of the bets that's going to be on my card is actually the Giants team total under 17.5, because I think that in order for them to kind of stay in this game, and I do think that they will cover the double digit line, is with Colt McCoy, one thing that he does do, which is something that Daniel Jones has not been known to be able to do, is Colt McCoy is going to complete those short, efficient passes, those 5-yard slants, those quick screens, those little 5-yard hitches. So I think that this is going to be a ball control style game with Jason Garrett back there calling plays for Colt McCoy specifically for him. And then Seattle showed it last week against Philadelphia. They want to get the ball on the ground more again. They don't want to just leave Russell Wilson out there to take a bunch of hits, because their offensive line is still pretty bad in terms of pass blocking. So I like this game to hit the game total under 47.5. I think it's another 23 to 13 game, 23-14 possibly. So yeah, I like the Giants team total under. I like the game total under. I like the Giants with the points because of the game hitting the under.
Another stinky line that I think I'm going to be on is Denver plus 2 touchdowns against Kansas City. Kansas City has failed to cover 3 straight. They obviously, and they're I just did the math. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're basically 6-5 against the spread. So, basically about half the games they've covered. I know Denver was a train wreck last week, but they went into that game with no expectations. When you start a practice squad, at least this week they should have a reasonable option at quarterback.
Yeah, it's looking like Drew Lock is going to be there, but yeah. I mean, is it going to be the Drew Lock of fourth quarters, or is it going to be the first through third quarter Drew Lock?
Yeah. As somebody with Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce in a playoff matchup, I'm a little concerned about this game. The Chiefs have found ways, especially in games where they can win by a lot, to not score a ton of points. That being said, they still scored 35 and had a really nice fantasy day against those Jets, even though they won 35-9. So worst case scenario, hopefully that happens. But I feel like Denver's the right side here.
This game was probably going to be an avoid for me because Denver, yeah, they got demolished last week, but I mean, you can't fault anything on their defense, having the fact that their offense was anemic, to say the least. Like, what they have, like less than 100 total yards on offense. So, and the defense for Denver had been something that they had been kind of, improving upon over the last 3 or 4 games. And Kansas City, as explosive as they are, they're really Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the other guys are good.
It's a pretty good trio.
I mean, the other guys are good, but if you're able to kind of limit, say, the production of one of those two monsters on the outside, there is a slight possibility that Denver is able to hang in there. But I'm not going to bank on either one of those things happening, because I can see the scenario where Kansas City just wants to go full 2007 Patriots on everybody for the rest of the season and just put up 40 or 50 points on everyone.
Any other games that stand out to you?
Yeah, I'm looking at the lines right now, and one of the games that I find extremely interesting is New England at LA, the Chargers.
Just looking at that.
The Patriots are a 1-point road favorite going into LA, and I think this has everything to do with the coaching matchup and less to do with the players on the field, because when looking at these teams on paper, the Chargers should absolutely smash this Patriots team in terms of talent, in terms of offensive production, in terms of what their defenses should be doing. But when it comes down to it in the nitty gritty, when you're looking at wins and losses, that's going to be on the coach and how efficient the offense can be. And that's why I think the Patriots are getting the edge here. And I think it's the reason why I'm going to back the Chargers.
Yeah. So the Patriots have covered 3 of their last 5, but they've failed to cover in 5 of their last 8 before that. They've gone here, there, and everywhere, bouncing around Houston. Now they're going out to the West Coast. I think like Justin Herbert has to get a win, right? Like, this isn't going to be a like.
That offense is too good for them to just go winless.
Right. Like, and the defense has pieces. It's almost like they're really terribly coached. And if they could just, I don't know, get someone who's not a complete knucklehead at head coach, they might win some of these games, or at least cover more. I don't know. It's so weird.
I think it'll be. So I think this is the first time that the Chargers have really presented an offense where it makes it extremely difficult for a guy like Bill Belichick to choose which one of their weapons that he's going to have to stop. Because if he takes out Keenan Allen, then you're just going to have Austin Eckler back there getting another 15, 16 targets, which the Patriots are one of the bottom 5 teams in the NFL in defending against pass catching running backs this season. So he's going to have to deal with that, or keep guys closer to the box, stop Austin Eckler, and then leave Keenan Allen out there to just absolutely dismantle his pass defense, who minus Stephon Gilmore is not very good. And then you have Mike Williams on the outside, who's going to tower over everyone that New England is able to put out there. So yeah, I don't know. I like the Chargers as a home dog. I'm going to take them money line. It's not something I'm betting heavily on, but I do think the Chargers get their win here.
For me, this game comes down to one thing: Bill Belichick versus Anthony Lynn. I'm taking New England, and I'm not looking back.
I definitely don't fault you there, because Anthony Lynn, he's right up there with the Dan Quinns of the world in terms of absolutely terrible coaching when it comes down to the nitty gritty.
I don't get it. All right, let's hit our college football minute, and I'll let you start. Let me know what games you're targeting this week from a college perspective.
All right, so the first one is, to me, the best game on the slate, and that's going to be now BYU at Coastal Carolina, and what is the matchup of the two best, like, group of 5, mid-major, whatever you want to say. It's the best matchup that we've seen out of these non-Power 5 schools in some time now. You have both top 20 teams here. Both of these teams are looking to, impress the committee to be that highest seeded group of 5 team to potentially get a New Year's Day bowl bid. This will be BYU's first actual test against a team that is considered good because the rest of their opponents have been trash. You know, I'm looking at this game in terms of the total. It's 61.5 right now. I think that's way too low. I would bet this up to like 70, being that BYU's averaging almost 48 points a game. The Chanticleers are averaging 40 points a game. Neither of these teams have played anybody. Coastal Carolina has the 107th ranked strength of schedule. BYU's 102nd. So their points against are going to be completely skewed against extreme subpar opponents. So I do think this game hits the over, and it's pretty convincing. I like Clemson's first half team total of 23.5. I'm going to smash the over on that. Only one time with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback had they not scored 24 or more, and that was against Miami. Every other game, they're averaging anywhere from 27 to around 40 points in the first half of games. And they're also looking to improve their ranking in terms of the playoff seeding. I think Clemson winds up getting close to smashing the total for the game over by themselves, which is currently sitting at 67. I see them putting up a 60 spot here. So I'm going to take them for the game total, which I think is 46.5 as well. And then let me add also, I'm going to take Clemson minus 22.5. Yeah, give me that. I'm backing Clemson huge this week. And then my last one, I'm not going heavy on college this week, but that's going to be Alabama's team total over 47.5 going up against LSU. I think that this is the year that Nick Saban decides, okay, you guys had your chance to get the spotlight down there in Baton Rouge, but now you get to really see who's the big boy of the conference, and we're going to absolutely demolish you. So, yeah, give me Alabama to absolutely destroy LSU. They're a 30-point favorite. Oh, my gosh, that is ridiculous.
That's got to be one of the biggest spreads in a long, long time.
I think it's the largest spread. I saw it today. It's the largest spread in an SEC game between these two schools ever in the history of the rivalry.
That's bananas. I'm just looking at everyone and their mothers on Alabama, and rightfully so. I was an idiot for backing Auburn last week, and as we talked about it into I think Friday or Saturday, we're like, oh yeah, no, we should be backing Alabama, and sure enough,
yep.
They covered with ease. The college football slate continues to be weird, especially with that Boise State, or not Boise State, BYU Coastal game just popping up. These teams are trying to get games in, which I respect, but definitely weird. Looking at some numbers, Jesus, Kentucky is favored. Kentucky is awful, but they're playing South Carolina, who is in a complete dumpster fire of a program. They're only getting Kentucky's getting 35% of the bets, but 68% of the money.
That's ridiculous.
It's still really early, and there's not a ton of bets, so that it can swing pretty wildly. But it tells me Kentucky's probably the right side, and I've seen them against some inferior teams look like world beaters, and then play really good teams and look like garbage. So I'll take Kentucky minus 11.5. I will also take. Georgia versus Vandy. Derek Mason's out. The kicker situation is a cool story, but
they got to get into field goal range first.
Well, yeah, I'll take Georgia. 35.5. Jesus, what's the total on that one?
Vanderbilt just lost 43-0.
Yeah, they're really bad.
They suck.
They're really bad.
Let's not beat around the bush here. They're bad.
Any chance James Franklin goes back there?
No. I don't think James Franklin is going to fall into a head coaching position.
Well, he came from Vandy, had a bunch of success. They're not going to do better than that. That's the best situation they could get. It is a reclamation project on an old face. I don't know. I think it makes a ton of sense. If they don't do that, they're going to have to go real young and try and catch one of these, like the Coastal Carolina coach, and try and make something out of it. I like Georgia, right? But like 35.5 seems like a lot. But then if you look at the over 53.5, at that point, are we banking on Georgia winning 46-3 and that's still not enough to cover? Like at that point, I think that's just going to be a game to avoid. That's weird. I don't know. NC State minus 6.5. If you can get the 6.5, I think that makes a ton of sense. I will put that on my card.
Well, that is interesting. I want to go back to the Georgia game real quick. So the only time so they've only scored more than 37 points twice this year. That was when they beat Tennessee way back on October 10th, and then last week when they beat South Carolina. Now, does that mean that their offense is back? But prior to that, their highest point total for the year was 31 the previous week against Mississippi State. So in order to hit
Kirby Smart's an idiot and didn't play JT Daniels out the jump, and now he's trying to make up for lost time and prove that he's worthy of that one of those 4 spots. And at this point, there's a chance that they could be one of the 4 because there's going to be 4 teams that are willing to go, and they could be one of the 4 that are willing to go.
True.
What are we doing with Indiana? Michael Penix Jr. is out for the year with a torn ACL, which is a horrible story because he was playing amazing.
Yep.
Wisconsin is now over a 2-touchdown favorite. Everybody is on Indiana. I think mainly because of what they think, like basically what they've done this far. Obviously, there's pieces on the offense that you like. There's pieces on the defense, but not having Penix back there is not great. Should we just load up on Wisconsin and watch them blow them out?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was leaning. When I first saw the line, I was like, oh, I kind of like Wisconsin here, knowing that Penix is out. I think Indiana's offense takes a major step backwards now, minus Penix. All those receivers that were putting up huge years, I don't think they're going to be anywhere near as good as what they were showing. And then I think that Wisconsin will just come in here and just road grade Indiana, all day, and they're just going to absolutely steamroll them, especially coming off a pretty embarrassing loss to Northwestern, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Notre Dame, 30, their final game of the year. Give me Syracuse plus 33.5. They want to stay. They want to win, obviously, and I think they'll win comfortably. But I think they'll do just enough to get the win and win by like 17.
Yeah, I was just going to
21.
Yeah, I like that play a lot because I don't see any reason for Notre Dame to force any of their guys to play any longer than they have to in this game, to risk any sort of injury or anything to that nature, knowing that they're basically getting an invite to the ACC championship game.
Yep, and then an invite to the playoff. And I'm ready to bet against Notre Dame in the playoffs or in the ACC championship.
I can't wait till they play Clemson again in the ACC championship game with Trevor Lawrence back and Clemson just.
The thing though is that game. The reason they lost the game is because it's not because of the offense, it's because of the defense. Like, the backup could have done a little bit more maybe and not put them in such terrible spots from the jump. But yeah, and then like, is Penn State fixed just because they beat Michigan? Like,
Michigan sucks.
Michigan is bad. Like, but now they're double-digit favorites against Rutgers. I know it's Rutgers, but Jesus, like, we've seen Penn State be just a absolute train wreck all season. Why are we lining up to bet them now?
Because Rutgers is equally as bad as Michigan. I mean, if you're looking at it in terms of in that way, Michigan beat Rutgers in that double overtime, like 47-44 game. So I mean, that would then you would have to think that Rutgers is then worse or equal to Michigan, who just got trounced by Penn State. So I guess that's why, but I'm avoiding that situation altogether.
Give me the 11.5. I'm taking it. If you can get it over double digits, I like it. There was one other game. Yep, that's what I'm doing too. TCU. We'll call it a pick'em. For some reason, it's showing. Let me look at what FTN has, because the Action Network is showing me a +1 on both sides. Yeah, it's basically a pick'em. I'm just gonna call TCU pick them -110. Okay, that'll work. I'm just happy to like have something to watch. Like we'll see how they go. I'm gonna probably make some plays, but this week's schedule is not great. We get to play next week, Brian. So I don't.
Hopefully we'll see.
Ohio State is favored by how many points next week?
I want to
Okay,
be.
let me ask you this.
I want to be.
Let me ask you this. What does the line need to be for you to say, "Give me Michigan next week"?
Man, anything over. Damn.
Was it
honestly
30, 35?
I was just gonna say it's gonna have to eclipse 4 touchdowns because Ohio State, because they haven't even reached like the threshold of games that the NCAA had originally announced to play. That's why I was actually going to add this to my card here. I'm going to take Ohio State -24 at Michigan State because I do think that they have to impress the committee enough to warrant them getting awarded a spot in the college football playoff. And just an invitation to the Big Ten championship game because they may not be able to play enough games. They don't know if we're going to get that game against Michigan next week with Michigan shutting down team activity. So, yeah, I'm taking Ohio State this week, and then I think it would have to approach 30 for me to take Michigan with the points, to be honest with you.
Michigan's finally going to be able to keep Ohio State out of the Big Ten championship by just not playing the game.
And fortunately, but unfortunately for me, I had already requested off next Saturday, like 2 months ago. So I'm going to be forcing myself to watch the destruction.
Well, hopefully you won't have power, so you can't watch the game. Okay, Brian. Let's recap our betting card. We got our Week 13 betting card recap. Hit me with what you're looking at.
All right, so to start with college football, I'll start with the first one the last one I just added here. I'm going to take Ohio State -24 at Michigan State. They have to impress the committee. I'm going to go BYU versus Coastal Carolina. I like the game total to hit the over 61.5. I think this gets near 70. I like this game to absolutely crush that number. And then I'm going really heavy on Clemson this week. I like their team total first half over 23.5. I like their game total, team total over 43.5. And I'm taking Clemson against the line 22.5 right now as it sits. Hopefully I can get it under 21. That would be fantastic. Now on, and then my last one is Alabama to just, put a 50 spot up on LSU. I think they hit that team total over 47.5 pretty easily at Baton Rouge this weekend. On to the NFL. I'm going to take the under 53.5 in Cleveland at Tennessee. Both of these running games should find success against each other, limiting possessions. Hopefully they limit turnovers. I like the game total under there. This is disgusting, but I'm going back with it. I'm sticking with the Jets with the 9 this week. I think they're able to get the passing game going against this absolutely terrible Las Vegas Raiders pass defense with Denzel Mims and Brashad Perryman, who have been showing out recently. I'm hammering the Saints right now, -3 on the book that I'm using with plus money. So I'm taking that all day right now. I think they absolutely control this game once again. If Julio misses, I think this game is another double-digit win for New Orleans. I'm going to go with the Giants team total under 17.5 in a game that should be pretty ugly with both teams, being rather good against the running game. I think that Seattle does just enough to keep this game, to win this game. On Kyle's side, he likes the Giants +10. And then my best bet, so I'm going to add this. This is going to be my best.
Hold on, let me recap my card, and then we can hit our best bets.
Okay. I don't want to give it away.
From a college side, I'm taking the Bama LSU under 67. I think your Bama team total over makes sense. I think LSU just has a horrible time scoring here, so I'll take under 67. I think it's 47-3 or something. I'm going to take Kentucky -11.5. I'm going to take NC State -6.5. I'm going to take Syracuse plus the 33.5 against Notre Dame. I'm going to take Rutgers +11.5. I'm going to take TCU on the money line. It's -110, 108, 111, depending where you look. On the NFL side, I'm going Saints -2.5. I'm going Arizona +2.5. I'm going the Giants +10. And I'm going New England -1. Brian, for your Week 13 best bet, you are taking
The Bears.
The Bears, Mitchell Trubisky.
Minus
throwing
3.
300 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Bear down, Chicago
and then he's
Bears.
going the Hurricanes and gonna go ice cold bear.
Yeah, I like the Bears in this spot here at home in what should be a frigid, a frigid temperature game against the Kenny Galladay-less, possibly now even DeAndre Swift-less Detroit Lions team. I think Chicago's defense controls this game, and the Bears do enough on offense with David Montgomery finding holes all day, and Allen Robinson absolutely, a men against boys going up against those young corners for the Lions.
Yep, I like it quite a bit. I am going with Indianapolis minus 3.5. I think they absolutely smash Houston. I think they play really, really well here, and have a big day. And I don't know what it is. We could talk about it Sunday morning, but I'm going to look to load up on Miles Sanders rush yard props against Green Bay. In back-to-back weeks, Jonathan Taylor and David Montgomery have ran circles around this defense, and if you know anything about David Montgomery and Jonathan Taylor, they're not great. They're kind of having really, really bad seasons. Then both popped in a big way against this defense. So I'm going to look for some Miles Sanders props, and I'm going to look to back him in a big way this week. Brian, it was a lot of fun. Obviously, hopefully we'll get to talk to you on Sunday morning. If you have your best bet for the NFL, for college, for I don't know, pickleball, whatever you got, drop it in the comments, hit the like, hit subscribe if you haven't done so, turn on the little bell notifications so you know when we go live. That way, if we go live Sunday morning, you get a little note, you hop on and join the show, bring your fantasy questions, bring your betting questions. Brian and I will address everything we can. But for Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to y'all next time.